Now, ABC 7 News at 5 on your side.
Relative quiet to report on the streets of Baltimore right now, after 2 days of tense moments. 35 people were arrested after a curfew took effect last night at 10. That curfew continues tonight between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. But before that, students are planning to march from Penn Station to City Hall. That's supposed to take place in about 45 minutes. Today, the city returned to a sense of normalcy with schools back open and the Orioles on the field at Camden Yards. We've got team coverage of the city in crisis with Horace Holmes at the ballpark. Kevin Lewis and Rebecca Cooper's also out there for us. But let's start with Maryland Bureau Chief Brad Bell. He's live along North Avenue. Brad, what's the latest this evening?
Well, Leon, a couple of headlines. The first one is the scene here on North Avenue is actually returning to normal. No real protesters, and the police, you can see, have taken off their riot gear as part of a planned de-escalation, according to one of the commanding officers I've spoken to. And we've got some breaking news. Now, the police said they were going to go ahead and take 2 weeks to complete their investigation into the death of Freddy Gray. They gave themselves a deadline of this Friday. We now know that the current plan is not to release the results of that investigation publicly, but to hand them over to the state's attorney for a decision upon whether or not anyone will be charged. This news coming, as we said, as the city moves back to normalcy. Baltimore's Inner Harbor glistens as always. People stroll and jog, but it's under the watchful eye of National Guard soldiers dressed for combat. They stand guard, too, at Mondawmin Mall, the place the rioting started Monday. This intimidating sight greeting Douglas High students at dismissal time. Today, nobody throws a single rock.
Get Baltimore back together. That's all. That's all we can do.
James Gray stands among those gathered at North Avenue where the looting and arson started Monday. Last night, police used smoke canisters to help disperse the crowd here as the 10 p.m. curfew kicks in. Today, for a second day, it is peaceful, but many describe the tension as simmering.
This is about being oppressed for hundreds of years. Is it over? No.
This loud but peaceful protest organized by ministers who hope to refocus attention on the death of 25-year-old Freddy Gray.
The public wants justice, and the public desires and wants that justice right now.
He wants the state's attorney to charge the officers who handled Gray during his April 12th arrest. Gray died a week later. The police report is due Friday, many fearing what happens if officers are not found liable.
It's going to start over. They're going to tear the city up.
Well, back live now. We said no protesters, and just as we said that, a group of young people arrived with their fists clenched up in the air. Now, what we understand is going on with regard to that investigation is that the medical examiner has not yet completed a final report. That's not expected to happen until late tomorrow, perhaps early Friday. In Baltimore, Brad Bell, ABC 7 News.
All right, thank you, Brad. Demonstrations over the death of Freddy Gray have spread to other cities as well. Protesters are planning to gather in Mount Vernon Square in D.C. in about 2 hours for a rally and a march to the White House. Last night, at least 2 people were shot during protests in Ferguson, Missouri. And today, the new U.S. Attorney General called for calm.
These senseless acts of violence are not only a grave danger to the community, and they must stop, but they are also counterproductive to the ultimate goal here, which is developing a respectful conversation within the Baltimore community and across the nation about the way our law enforcement officers interact with the residents that we are charged to serve and to protect.
And there was scrutiny on those who were with that charge in Baltimore from many quarters. Maryland's Attorney General is investigating the Baltimore Police Department's actions in Freddy Gray's death. Allison.
Well, Leon, this week's violence, of course, led to an historic day at Camden Yards as a baseball game is being played without any fans. This is what it looked like there as the Orioles took to the field against the White Sox without anyone in the stands. Horace Holmes was among the media inside the ballpark when the game started. Hi, Horace.
Hi, Allison. Members of the press were the only ones allowed to watch the game, and we were confined to the press box, so nobody was in the stands. But even though the fans weren't allowed through those gates today, it didn't stop them from coming out. The gates at Camden Yards remained locked tight all afternoon.
It's super weird. It's like being locked out of my house. It's crazy.
The fans kept on the outside while baseball was played inside.
I think that they should have invited some of the kids that they call thugs down here to watch the game. I think it would have been a great moment for the community to come together.
It would be a strange afternoon for all of the Chicago White Sox and Baltimore Orioles.
It'll be different. I can't say that it's just another game.
These two teams did something no other Major League Baseball teams have ever done before. Play a Major League Baseball game before no fans.
It's a smart move. You don't want to risk it. You want to make sure the whole situation is diffused first.
Given the tensions that remain on the streets of Baltimore, city officials, the Orioles, and Major League Baseball thought this was the best thing to do.
It's nice to have this going on, though, because it means that there's some kind of normality coming back to the city.
The fans, though locked out, still turned out, watching from high-rise buildings across the street or peering through the gates. A show of support, a show of pride for their baseball team and their hometown during these troubled days. In essence, a week's schedule of games were either postponed or rescheduled.
We'll be at least 90% down in our weekly sales based off what we had projected.
A big hit for the businesses around Camden Yards, but everyone agrees it's really a small price to pay for peace. And these gates here on Utah Street and all around Camden Yards will remain closed at least through the weekend. The games that were scheduled between the Tampa Bay Rays and the Orioles this weekend have been moved to Tampa Bay. When the Orioles do come back, everybody is hoping they will be allowed in and they will be coming back to a much different Baltimore. Reporting live from Baltimore, Horace Holmes, ABC 7 News.
All right, you got it, Horace. Now, with all the attention on the protests and the riots in Baltimore, ABC 7 is still trying to learn more about the man at the heart of the issue, Freddy Gray. He died a week and a half ago. I-Team investigator Josie Sturman picks up our team coverage tonight with a look at what we've learned about that man today. Josie.
Well, Leon, what we learned through these court documents is putting to rest social media chatter and rumors that Gray recently got a hefty settlement for a spinal injury following a car accident right before his death. That's just not true, according to what's in these papers. The 7 on Your Side I-Team has learned Gray and his sister did recently cash in a settlement, but court records we picked up in Howard County, Maryland, show it was related to a lead paint case where the Grays claimed they were injured through exposure to lead in a house they lived in Baltimore as kids. The records show Gray got a settlement for more than $100,000 that would have been paid out over 15 years. But Freddy and his sister opted to take a lump sum, walking away with $18,000. That's money Gray said in documents would be used to pay his bills and pay bills that backed up. Baltimore's mayor today was quick to shut down speculation that has been spreading about Gray before his death.
I don't need to speculate, that we saw what happened when people speculate about, well, did he have a criminal history, or did he have this, or I'm not in that. I'm not going to be a part of that. What my commitment is to find answers for what happened to Mr. Gray while he was in our custody. I'll let anybody else speculate on anything else they want to do.
And other records for that same settlement say Gray hoped to use the money he got to buy a reliable vehicle, something he believed would impact his ability to find solid employment. Josie Sturman, ABC 7 News.
All right, thank you, Josie. Now, just weeks before Freddy Gray's death, Harvard University asked 3,000 people between the ages of 18 and 29 if they believe in the criminal justice system. Just about half said that they don't. In fact, 49% say they have little to no confidence in the judicial system. And when you break that down along racial lines, it works out to be 66% of blacks, 43% of whites, and 53% of Hispanic millennials. Now, in the next hour, we'll take a look at what these protests could mean for the economy in Baltimore. And then at 5:45, we'll take a look at what people think needs to happen across that city to give parts of it a fresh start. Allison.